Antarctic Adventure for the Nintendo Famicom, developed and released in 1985 by Konami, is a Japanese exclusive release that most Americans at the time probably never heard of unless you had one of those fangled multi-cart things. Or maybe you played the game on ColecoVision, which was the only video game system in North America to get an official localization. But that's not the version we're looking at here, we're looking at the Famicom version. The premise is straightforward. You control a little penguin thing called Penta, and you're charged with racing across the rough terrain of Antarctica in order to reach designated research stations and plant various country flags before time runs out. And once time runs out, the game ends. But if you reach the research station in time, you'll plant the flag and continue on your Antarctic adventure to plant flags on all 10 research stations throughout this fine continent of broken ice, seals, and tons of flags. And once you reach the final station, you get to run the whole gauntlet all over again. Such is life for our pal Penta. Now these bits of broken ice pits, seals, and blue puddle things are the obstacles that can slow Penta to a crawl, and as Penta ventures further in his Antarctic adventure, you'll have to dodge more of these things and then some. After all, it only takes one little mistake to lose the plot, and a little mistake can sometimes lead to a string of mistakes. Fortunately, controlling Penta is a breeze. Up and down controls your cruising speed, left and right steers, and both buttons jump. Momentum is something you have to deal with whenever you're on curves and turns, but control is so responsive and so slick that it's far less of an issue than you might think. Along the way, you'll come across flags that you could collect for bonus points, and fish will also jump out at times from certain puddles that you could also collect for more points. The only real power-up of sorts in Antarctic Adventure comes in the form of the flashing flags. Picking these up will grant Penta a little propeller on his head that gives him the ability to hover for a short period of time, which certainly helps in the later levels. Be careful though, any collision will cause you to lose this advantage. Antarctic Adventure is a fairly simple, fairly rudimentary game, but it's one that feels insanely satisfying to play. As with any game, it starts off relatively simple, but the difficulty does pick up as more obstacles lay before you and the clock starts getting smaller. And as stated, it only takes one little mistake to throw you off your game, and compiling a bunch of little mistakes might mean an end to the adventure. That being said, once you start getting a groove going, it becomes a breeze to slide through, and there's a charm to the game that makes it an engaging and enjoyable experience. And 3 difficulty settings to choose from means you could pick your poison appropriately to suit your skill. White terrain, occasional blue bits, seals with smiley faces, and the posterior of this penguin are the constant visuals of Antarctic Adventure, and it looks nice and clean looking in a somewhat cutesy sort of way. The scaling of oncoming objects is fairly smooth, especially when traveling at high velocities. There is at times a feel that it might seem jerky, but never to the point where it's detrimental to the overall gameplay. The sudden pop-up of background elements such as the ocean is jarring, but after a while you get used to it. And when you reach your goal, Penta looks back and smiles, and sometimes after every 5 levels conquered, he does a little pose, which is kinda cute actually. The game only boasts one song that plays throughout the entire game, a catching and soothing 8-bit rendition of the Skater's Waltz. Should annoy the heck out of me, but it actually grew on me after a while. It's rather quite pleasing and soothing. Sound effects are fairly minimal, pretty stock, nothing too special, nothing worth mentioning. Antarctic Adventure is a gem that was criminally withheld from the American audiences. Whether it was because of its apparent cutesiness or some other silly reason, we were deprived of the game that, when you look past the anime-ish appearances, is perhaps a deceptively simple game that is slickly designed in its gameplay and control setup, deceptively engaging in its simplicity, and sickeningly addictive in its execution. It is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and if playing as a cute little penguin is a turnoff for your hardcore gaming heart, then you'll probably feel right at home with big rigs. But if you want a solid, fast-paced game that's a simple yet effective time killer, or maybe you just want a game that's perfect for speedrunning, then Antarctic Adventure more than does its part just fine.